Hey, mister, imagine being a Ghostbuster. Yes, you, right there. Imagine for a second that you were a Ghostbuster. It sounds like a pretty cool job to have, right? I mean, you get the cool uniform, the PKE meter, the sweet Proton Pack, and to top it all off, you get to ride around in the Ecto-1, busting ghosts and having a blast. I know I'd love to be a Ghostbuster, that's for sure, and that's exactly the experience you'd hope to get from the Ghostbusters video game on PS4, right? Of being a Ghostbuster. Well, what if I was to tell you you were a Ghostbuster in that game, but instead of busting ghosts and looking awesome doing it, they didn't actually let you use the Proton Pack out of fear of racking up a huge bill in property damage. So instead of firing the proton beam, you just had to stand there in full costume with all the equipment, unable to use it, while the rest of the team had all the fun. You'd be like, listen, you smell something? And I'd be like, yes, I do. It's the bullshit nice shooting TEX trophy, which does exactly that.
There's one more trophy getting in my way, but it's the worst one of all. So this might be where I fall. Really hope I don't flop. I gotta make sure I pop that one bullshit PlayStation trophy.
It's bad enough that this guy is already being an uptight peck about you causing damage to the buildings in the first place, but then they decide to add in the nice shooting TEX trophy, which requires you to complete the game having caused no more than $100,000 in damages. So now you've got to be very careful every time you fire your proton beam, as the game will punish you for hitting anything other than a ghost with the beam. Hit a wall, that'll be $100 please. Smash a table, well that's going to cost you $500 to replace it. Break a window, well that's even more dollars. The list goes on and the prices only get higher and higher, where just a single wrong blast of a beam in an entire level can seriously ruin your playthrough, sending you over the measly $100,000 damages limit, and thus voiding the playthrough and locking you out of the trophy. Oh, and did I mention that in some of the levels alone, you can easily rack up to $1 to $3 million in damages, so trying to stick to the small $100,000 limit is going to be tricky, especially when you consider the 7 or so levels all contain a shitload of objects in the levels, that nearly all of which can be destroyed and will bill you for breaking them. And trust me, when you're in combat and it's all kicking off and there's a load of ghosts everywhere, it can be so easily to accidentally break something, whether it's a window, a wall, a painting or a statue or even a table. There's just so many things you need to avoid. Even when you've shot the ghosts enough to stun them and you're then ready to trap them, you still need to be careful not to slam them into any objects, as that can result in massive damage and an expensive bill. So it makes the experience of capturing a ghost a more awkward one, as you desperately try to get it into the trap without causing more damage to the room you're in, as you try to keep it under control as it flails all over the place. And the game doors encourage you to slam it in order to stop it from escaping, and when you have little to no accurate control over the slam itself and where it goes, you're very much at the mercy of the game and where it decides to slam the ghost, and more often than you'd like, you'll end up breaking something, which then in turn causes you to have more of a damaged build than you'd want. And it's just very frustrating that in this playthrough, you always seem to not be able to get the ghost in quick enough. As well as being careful firing your weapon, you also need to watch your step. Yep, that's right. You can even break things by walking into them or stepping on them, which is just absolute bullshit, as during combat you're genuinely looking up at the ghosts flying around in the air when you're fighting them, so you can't even see your feet at that point, never mind what's in front of you in the environment. So when you do break something with your body, it just seems like a cheap fuck you player from the game. I mean, way to bust the fun right out of the game there, developers. Why does it have to be that fucking petty? I mean, take a look at this one in the hotel kitchen, where I'm just running around trying to find some of the collectibles and just figure out where I need to go. So I'll go down this dead end, and as I'm coming back, I end up treading on this tray, which causes $26 of damage, yet it was already on the fucking floor. How fucking petty. So by now you've probably noticed that there are always some of the original Ghostbusters crew with you in the levels, as these are your AI teammates who will heal you and also attack the ghosts. Thankfully though, whatever damage they do to the buildings and the environments you're in isn't actually counted towards your property damage, which is an absolute lifesaver, as these guys just don't give a fuck and will tear up all of the rooms you go into. So with them with you and you being too afraid to shoot, you may be thinking, well shit, why don't I just let them do all the work? And well, you'd kind of be right, as that is a good tactic in certain areas and fights, as they will take out a lot of ghosts, but sitting around and waiting for them to do it can be very boring, as it will take them a while. Plus, on some fights, they just won't do any damage at all, like the Peter versus Slimer fight here in the hotel. Are you done yet, Bill? Come on. You haven't even hurt him yet. Oh my god, Bill Murray. I'll just do it myself. Come here, Slimer. Get in the trap. Come on, you pain in the arse. Get in there. In there. Go on. That's it. Sorted. Another thing that made the trophy feel bullshit was that some levels require you to destroy or throw objects that are blocking your path in order to progress, like the one in the hotel kitchen, or these crates that hide a switch behind them, and the only way to get to them is to blow them all up. But then you get charged like $1,000 for doing so. Or how about when you're trying to follow the chairman, and when you use the scanner, it tells you to blow up this statue, but when you do, you get charged nearly $1,800 for it, and then only for you to then shoot it a second time to completely destroy it and not get charged anything. What's that all about? It's just really confusing, because then there's other points in the game, like this boss fight with this ghost going through the mirrors, that will just let you blow up all of the mirrors without charging you any money for destroying any of them. It's just massively inconsistent, and it just results in you constantly pausing the game, going into the menus to check the financial records, to just see how much damage you've caused after pretty much every battle, and it just slows the gameplay down and becomes rather annoying and frustrating to have to constantly monitor it, because you're never quite sure what's going to blow up in your face or not. A lot of the enemies that you do have to fight against can be really annoying, especially the ghosts, when they just constantly fly around the place and refuse to stay still for long. Usually they'll fly into the corner of the room, bait you over, and then when you start firing at them, they'll then quickly fly around the room to another corner, and that can be really frustrating when you fire your beam and they move and you end up hitting something behind them. So you definitely want to just do like a burst fire shot to try and avoid and limit the amount of damage you'll cause if they move, which they will do. The larger enemies that you end up just blowing up, these are quite easy to defeat without causing damage, because you can just get right up close to them and just pump them in the chest without risking damaging the environment. Likewise, those smaller dog-like enemies that charge at you can be easily killed by just letting them run up to you, and if you're playing on casual, which you really should be for this trophy, you won't actually die, so you can just aim down at the floor and shoot them when they're right by you. This way you won't cause any damage to any of the environment, as the floor doesn't seem to count for anything. It's an annoying way to fight them, and it will leave you with, well, something on your face, that's for sure, but it's a safer method to kill them. By far the most frustrating enemy type to fight against with this restriction of damage were the little enemies that fly around, like the books or the skulls that you'll see in the later levels, as these were just a real bitch to actually hit accurately without missing and hitting the environment behind them, because they just constantly fly all over the place, and it can be really easy for you to get killed by them, and you can't rely on your AI teammates to take them out either, because they will usually get swarmed and killed by them as well. And if you do die in battle, one of the more annoying things about this trophy is that any damage you incurred during that battle will still be counted, and thankfully here I didn't actually cause any damage, but if I did, I would still have that damage counted against me, which is just bullshit.
Are you fucking kidding me?
As mentioned earlier, there are 2 levels in the game that are very problematic when going for this trophy, as if you're not careful, you can easily cause millions of dollars worth of damage in them due to their abundance of expensive and high value objects that are just littered throughout both of the levels. The first one is the Times Square level, which is just full of cars that, if you end up blowing up, will cost you thousands of dollars per car. The other level that you need to worry about is the museum level, as you're going through this tight corridor driven level, there are lots of expensive museum exhibitions around that can easily be destroyed during some of the many fights here, and if you end up breaking the statues or the glass cabinets that some of the expensive items are in, you can quickly find that the damages bill is just skyrocketing. So as a tip, you definitely want to make a manual save at the start of both of these levels and then back it up to a USB or the PlayStation Plus cloud so that you can go back to that save file if you have a really terrible run of these levels, because these are the ones that will make or break your trophy. If you can get past those 2 levels with minimal damage like I have done here, you'll find that you're pretty much on the home stretch for this trophy. And after returning to the hotel again and completing that level, you'll find that the trophy takes another unexpected and rather bullshit turn, as in the final 2 levels, it is really hard to actually damage and get billed for anything, because you can be blowing up all sorts of things in these levels and you don't really get billed for it. So it's kind of like the game just kind of gives up on this whole property damage concept for the final 2 levels in the game, because I swear I'm wrecking all sorts of shit in that Lost Island level with my Slimer gun, and yet I don't get billed for it. And then in the final level, when you go to the graveyard, I'm smashing all sorts of tombstones, and yet I'm not getting a single dollar bill for it. What's up with that? It's just a really strange way to end the game and this sort of property damage mechanic, because it just sort of filters out and just gets forgotten about in the final 2 levels, and it kind of makes this trophy feel more bullshit because you get really penalised badly in some of the earlier levels in the game, and yet the final 2 just let you go at it and just fire your beam off whatever you like and hit whatever you like, it doesn't matter. So it just kind of feels bullshit, to be honest. And yeah, it's just weird. It's a weird way to just sort of fizzle it out at the end and just let you do whatever you want. And for all those reasons, that's why the nice shooting TEX trophy in Ghostbusters Remastered on PS4 gets a bullshit trophy rating of.
Alright, here we go. Let's go!
Shit.
Shit! Whoa! Yeah. Alright, hold on. I'll see if there's an... Oh, shit! Oh, shit! Shit.